Good morning, good afternoon to wherever you are. My name is Klaus Maier, and I have the pleasure to welcome today Mr. Rolf Jenny from the leading road equipment manufacturer Ammann from Switzerland. Rolf will not only talk about how to enter successfully into a joint venture, but also how to make it successful. Rolf Jenny works since 1984 for the Ammann Group and professionally holds university degrees in mechanical engineering as well as business administration. In 2002, Rolf got promoted as the division manager of asphalt plants and also as a member of the executive board of the Ammann Group. At that time, his main objective was to transform Ammann from a traditional Swiss company to a strong European leader in road construction with manufacturing in Germany, Italy, plus sales and service companies in the Netherlands, Australia, UK, Poland, and Russia. Today, Rolf Jenny is the head of corporate development of the Ammann Group, and instead of Europe, his playground is the world. He is currently transforming Ammann into the global leader in road construction with manufacturing in China and India, plus sales and service activities around the world. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Rolf Jenny. Good morning, Rolf.
Good morning, Klaus. Thank you very much for your introduction and a very warm welcome to all the audience. It's a big honor to talk to you, and I'm sure we will have together an interesting session. A few years ago,
I'm very sure about that. I've heard you talking about this topic many times, and every time it's an eye opener, even for somebody who has been in India for a very long time. But before we start, Rolf, it would be, I think, at least for those who don't know who Ammann is, even though that's difficult, maybe you briefly tell us in a few minutes or a few seconds what Ammann exactly is and what you do.
Okay, I will do that with big pleasure. You see the picture behind, actually it represents a little bit of Ammann. The Ammann company is based in Switzerland and was founded in 150 years ago, and still today it's managed by the 6th generation of the family. So the CEO is a member of the family. The holding does about sales of 2 billions and has a global footprint. And the holding consists of two parts. One is called Avesco, and Avesco is basically the dealer company, mainly for Caterpillar dealers for 100 years already in Switzerland, and now also in Finland and in the Baltic states. And the Ammann Construction Equipment Company is one of the leading suppliers for road construction equipment. That means asphalt plants, concrete plants, compaction equipment, and pavers, all basically what you need.
I think you actually also prepared a slide which shows this product. Maybe Atul can show that.
Right, if you put that in, Atul, then you see better what these equipments are.
Exactly.
So here
whatever you see on construction sites on the highway, which you don't really appreciate when they stop you going through quickly from point A to point B.
Right. Those equipments are all needed to build a road, and we have the right equipment to do it. In red, you see the numbers of units we are doing every year. And the company has also two startups, and the two startups are called Q Points and Thematics. And the idea of these two startups are IT companies. We are doing the digitalization of the whole process from the road construction, meaning the first quotation, the whole process of building, then the warranty, the trace back of information until the street is over. So that is the business of the Ammann Group. And I will talk from now on only about the road construction or the construction equipment company, not anymore about the dealer's company, because this is not interested in our context. So we can take this picture.
Atul, can you take this picture off, please? So yeah, let's actually move to our real topic, which is actually India here, since we are in the India Business Month, and we met, I think, the first time in 2007 in Luzern. I still remember that, or in Langenthal, actually, to be quite frank. And yeah, I think in 2008 you started looking at India. So before coming to India, you had experience in China. You have obviously did all the expansion work in Europe. So what is it you found in India? I mean, what was what was the situation at those days when you started looking at India?
Yeah, let me give first a short replic to the time what I spent in India. After all, there are 15 years what I have been traveling forwards and backwards. And what I can say is I like India and its people very much. And I lived the most interesting time in India. Obviously, I have also gone through different phases. The phase one was the enthusiastic, to be exciting about the country, about the extraordinary opportunities this country offers. You see all these possibilities. You see the streets are in back shape, a huge population. You see that is a great opportunity. Then it came also phase two, I must say, was the time when I realized the complexity and the chaos in India everywhere. When you travel a street, I never did myself, I only use drivers. You can't do it because it's so complex, it's so chaotic, it's fantastic. And then fortunately it came then the phase three, which was the exciting of the opportunities. The learning from the Indian personality, the Indian people. And at that time, I could really understand how much I can learn myself from my Indian colleagues. And that was a lot. And for that, I'm very grateful. And I take still today a lot of advantage of this time. What I also learned before you go to India, you have to think twice. I will mention 3 points. One is, I said before, this huge potential of this country. You have to be clear, can you lift this potential with your existing product portfolio? I will come later back to this. We had to learn it the hard way. It's not so easy, even if the potential is there. Second point is your management able and willing to live with the Indian chaos and the Indian bureaucracy? You will find in your organization quite a number of people which say, I don't want to deal with that. That's beyond that what I can do. So you need to find people which are happy with it and can do with it. And the third point must be clear, is it worth to go to India? Do you have the financial strength to digest such an operation? When you build it up, it costs a lot of money. Then the market expansion is an expensive exercise, needs a lot of resources on management and also on financials. And what must be clear on day one is India is not the solution for a country which might be in difficulties. Those are a few pre-words to the situation, how I lived India.
Okay. So, and I think obviously, you know, haven't heard this the first time in my life. I think obviously those impressions stay with many people, because obviously India is the country of extremes. Yeah, on the one hand side you have the extreme chaos, on the other hand side you see the extremes, nice world in five-star hotels and so on. But I mean, you mentioned the potential of what you saw there, and obviously there is huge road potential. I think I still remember when I moved to India, my boss told me, look, you can do the best business in countries where the roads are not straight yet. He didn't mean literally, but in your case, it's actually literally. And so what did you do in order to really assess the potential? I mean, was it basically you drove one time around the country from north to south and west to east, and so, hey, roads have to be built up, so surely that's our territory? Or how did you look into that?
Maybe you show picture number 2. So I said the Ammann Group has a global footprint, and now I'm taking the bird view from 2,000 kilometers away and look to the world. And when I look from there, I see 4 huge road networks. I see one in USA, which is about 7 million kilometers, and I see 95% of the network is done. The streets are paved, as we all know, not in a good condition, but anyway, the streets are there and are practical. When I look to Europe, I see also nearly 7 million kilometers, or I will see it in the year 2030. Some 5% still needs to be paved and done, but the road network in good shape. Then I would look to China. China also about 6 million kilometers and only 25% not paved yet. The rest of it in very good condition, newly built. And then comes the interesting part, India. India with this huge population, 1.3 billion, and this bad road network. The total length of it is also nearly 6 million kilometers, but the condition is terrible. About 75% of the roads are rural roads, not paved, dusty, dirty, and the rest of the roads are narrow, traffic jam. And when you are a road construction company, as we are for road construction equipment, India is an enormous potential, a big potential to go. And that's what has attracted us and said, Ammann, when we really want to be global, we have to be in India. So this was the picture. There are obviously a lot of streets in Africa, in Southeast Asia, and other parts of the world, but those 4 networks are the most important one. So we had decided
very clearly. I think it very clearly shows the potential, and I think then obviously it was very clear Ammann had to be in India after your assessment. And but then I think during your assessment you also investigated different options, like setting up your own business in India. It was very clear with imported products. I think you couldn't become a successful business here in India. So I think a local solution was required. Do it on your own, buy into a business. And I think at the end of the day, you decided to look into existing businesses which were possible to acquire. Was that correct? Was that the motivation to become a local player, or was the motivation rather to do it fast and quickly? And why did you choose the option to enter into an existing business?
Yeah. Take picture 1, 2 away, please. This is right. Let me tell the full story how this works, because it was quite complex. As I said, Ammann has a global footprint. We have been penetrating in a lot of markets into Europe, Russia, US, Middle East, Africa, China, Australia, Southeast Asia, and so on. So we had vast experience how to do it. So we were self-confident we can do it also in India. So we said in year 2000, now let's start. We have gone to exhibitions, we have met customers, and we have chosen the so-called hard selling strategy. What means that? It means we need to have a certain population in this country. Customer must appreciate our products. And even if we lose money by the single orders, one day the market will realize all the advantages that Ammann can offer. But it didn't work. It worked in India and other countries, but in India it did not work. China was okay for that, but not in India. So it was a very, very expensive exercise, but no results. We had maybe 15 or 12 plants installed in India, but we had to realize the very hard way that the Indians would not appreciate our quality of the product. The efficiency that you can make the road in half the time or only 25% of the time, much faster. The quality of the mix of the road will be reliable. The reliability of the equipment, the environmental friendliness, all this didn't play. Customers were exciting when we talked with them about these topics. But when it came to the price, sorry, we can't afford it, so we didn't go in. So we did that for a few years, and then we had to realize we have to go another way. And that was in 2007. That's also when I met Klaus, actually. And we discussed a little bit about it, and so said we make a detailed study. We evaluated the different possibilities to go into the Indian market. We first tried to go the most simple way, find dealers, find agents in India, which could sell for us the products and make maybe some local manufacturing to reduce the cost. When they have seen what kind of price we talk about, when they have seen the complexity of the products, all of them have said, that's not good, it's interesting, happy to talk, but we can't go. So we were looking in buying a company. There were a number of companies around. They would have been maybe interested, but none of it would have suited our needs to become a strong player in India. So the buying a company was also not a solution. Then we looked into the green field, making a wholly foreign-owned enterprise, just as we had done it in China. But in China, we had through import already the market. But in India, we did not have any market. And only making a factory and hope that the market will come one day, that was not good enough. So we were left with one solution, a joint venture. And we were looking then for the best partners. And in 2008, we had the first contact with Apollo and some other partners, and we found that Apollo would be a good company, good choice. But by that time, Apollo was not really interested. They were most interested about our technology and our know-how and all that. But really to make a joint venture, that was not good. So this was a difficult time. But in 2011, we have been on an exhibition in Delhi again. Patels, the owner of the Apollo company, they came to us and say, Rolf, now we are interested in talking. So that was a positive sign.
That's already a good sign.
Right. That was then a good sign. And then we have made the decisions. And in 2013, we opened the joint venture, 70% Ammann, 30% Apollo. Then in 2018, we have opened a complete new factory. And in 2000,
yeah, let's we come to that. Let's come to that a bit later, Rolf. You mentioned already. Okay, here we see the factory when it was when we met Apollo the first time. But maybe maybe a different question here first. And I think Atoli can actually now take this picture off, because you managed Patel, the family. And I think obviously we spoke about this thing before we had our meeting here and said which topics do we cover? Do we want to go? What technical aspects do you consider when you buy a joint venture, due diligence, and this and that, whatever? But I think the real interesting part, also for every European who actually wants to invest in India is family business. Like business in Europe is family business. And you're dealing here with families, and not just small families, but actually also extended families, where in this hierarchy level you may not even see the senior of the family until your first really important meeting. And I think that's maybe something what typically we don't hear about so much. So how would you describe, on the example of the Patel family, obviously, how would you describe Indian families as business partners, or Indian business partners as families? If you take the comparison, obviously you also from a very reputed, I mean the Schneider Ammann group, from a very reputed family in Switzerland. Mr. Schneider, he was the president of Switzerland for many years. So how would you compare those? I mean, how would you compare family business in Switzerland and in India?
Okay, the Patel family, there was the father. The father was a great entrepreneur. He knew what to do, and he was the driver of the company. He had two sons, actually, and both sons were working in the company. And that was the family background. And when I look to the situation, Ammann was very strong in the Western world with the high-end technology, what we have produced, and the middle technology. And the old markets did start to stagnate, not so much important anymore. And to grow, we need to go to other markets, to new markets, and to have new products, such as Indian products. So this joint venture was a good thing. And as I said, Patel family, they had 3 members, with the father being the real driver. And the 2 families, they had a lot of things in common. Both are entrepreneurs, as I said. Ammann was already in the 6th generation, and the Patel family was in the 2nd generation. The company values, which was independence, sustainability, credibility, was in both companies. The independency was on the Patel side, on the Apollo side, not strong on the technical side, because they had licensed products, they had pinched products, they had copied products. So that was a little bit different. But interesting, both families have been in the business and in the politics. As you mentioned, Schneider was even the president of Switzerland, and Patel family was also member of parliament. And both families were very strong in education of young people. Schneider was promoting this dual education system all over the world during his time in politics. And the Patel family had even founded a university with 15,000 students. So there were a lot of common ground of it.
Okay, let me ask you one question here. what would be the biggest difference between those families? Because you described right now all the where the families were similar. Was there also one point where they were different?
Yes, in the beginning especially, we have seen the big difference. When we had the first meeting, the Patel family were sure themselves that they can do the next necessary step for the company themselves. Like when you talk to Indian, quite often you hear the answer, no problem, until the problem comes. And then you have to fix it. So they were sure, but after 3 years, probably looking into it, they have realized through our discussions what all need to be done. But when they had to do it, they realized, maybe we don't have the resources, the finance, the management, the people, and the conceptual intellectuality. So then they came back to us and said, yes, we are now happy with the approach. So
Okay.
that's just a big difference, that they were confident they can do it their own until they realized it's not that easy.
Okay, enthusiasmus in one word.
Yes.
So, which means, if I understand correctly, you had to bring together two strong families.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of similarities, and I think this you see throughout here in India, that India or families here in India are as strong as traditional European families, especially when being in business. So I think your main job was to align those two families, right? To make sure, look, one family is on the same understanding as the other family, to understand what are the expectations on each. So your role was a moderator, right?
Right. Absolutely right. Before I come to this point, maybe I have to also say what was the reason why we had to go for a joint venture.
Okay.
The big step to India was only possible with a joint venture. And the joint venture with Apollo had to bring us 3 opportunities. The opportunity number 1, to enter into this huge road construction market in India. That's obvious. The second point is to enter into the simplified, low-cost product portfolio. I told you on the first step, it was not possible for Ammann with our product to penetrate the Indian market because the products were not accepted. And the third point, which is very important, we wanted to have a low-cost location for a big factory. And with this, we wanted to penetrate into Africa, into Southeast Asia, and into other countries which we could not reach from Europe. So we had 3 major goals: go to India, the low-cost products, and the manufacturing base to penetrate new market and get the growth of the company what we needed. And obviously, Patel family would not have sold the 100%, so this was never a discussion.
Yeah, so
We
that's
did
why
not
you
have
had to get into the joint venture.
right. So
But
we didn't.
I think these are the strategic reasons, and obviously India is predestined for developing products which work maybe in Southeast Asia, which work on the East African continent, Middle Eastern continent, and I think that is all very clear. But coming back to that one topic and aligning expectations of the business owners, so to speak, because I feel that is very often one of the problems why joint ventures fail. You get your partner in India, you say, fine, you are in India, you know best, you do and you manage and you make sure this works, and then all by a sudden, 5 years later down the line, you find the surprise, yeah, that things maybe didn't work in the way how it was. And I think that was in your case different because you really invested time in making sure both families had the same understanding, correct?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So here what I have to start with is the real factors for the success was 3 points. Number one, we had an ideal strategic fit regarding products and markets. The Apollo company was from the mid segment to the low segment with their products, and the Ammann was the upper segment. So these two matched well together. Second, Ammann had a global footprint, with exception of India, and Apollo had the Indian footprint, but very little in export. So the strategic fit on products and markets was really ideal. Then the corresponding values on commitment of the company, we talked before about that. And then we had a win situation when Apollo management and the family Patel realized they cannot do the next step, what is needed for the company. And Ammann has realized to go for this big step into India, we need to have a strong partner. So that was the background. And this strategic situation helped a lot. But now it comes the difficult part, how to align all the different ideas. And interesting, all started with a vision. The vision was 1 and 1 is 11 and not 2.
Yeah, that's a good
What
one.
means
I know 1 + 1 is 3, but 11 I haven't heard yet.
yes, right.
And I think
right.
we managed to get 11 out of it.
I had to make something new, right? So Ammann and Apollo, which is Ammann Apollo, this is not 2, it's 11. And because I had to convince them that for the Patel family to have 30% shareholding in this new company is much better than having 100% in the old company. So it could not be 2. It would not have been interesting for them. So why could we do the 11? I said before, the strategic fit was a help to it. And the company had these same values, was also helping to it. But then we had to define clear goals. And we had to evaluate these goals and all the steps in the joint venture with this 1 and 1 equals 11. We had, for instance, European quality at Indian cost. That was a tough one because we all know the philosophy of the Indian manufacturer, the good enough quality and the good enough technology. And we had to insist we have to go a step further. Then I said we need to have the double amount of output, but with the same amount of people. We cannot grow like this. This doesn't work. And so people had to think differently. And then
so I'm looking
had
a bit on the watch here. We have, I think, 3, 4, 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
I think we could now listen to you for ages, and I think those 45 minutes obviously is really not enough. But one thing which I would like to ask you, maybe only in 1 minute, what was the toughest part in aligning the expectations? I mean, the strategic fit is there, you had the partners, they all wanted to do it. What was the toughest part in aligning expectations?
Right. So let's put the picture number 3.
Atul? I think we saw that. Yes, exactly.
That is how we had seen and bought the 70% of the shares of Apollo. And we had to tell them that is not sufficient. Show picture number 4. It has to be different. This is the factory, what we are looking for. A huge difference, you see. We had before 4 different locations and everything had gone into 1 location. We had to be clear about the market responsibility, the product development. It was the first time that the Ammann Group had decided that we are manufacturing key components, which were manufactured only in Switzerland, now in India. And this has to be a state-of-the-art factory with laser, robotics, plasma, clean factory, fully integrated IT, and all, as I said, in one location. That was one of the very difficult points. And the second very difficult point was the 70-30% of the shares. They were all the time talking about 50-50. And I said to them, no, that's not. Only when they have been convinced that the 30% of the shares is the better deal than the 100% of the old company. And then it worked. So that was probably the most difficult part of the negotiation. And what we have done.
I have there's one very interesting question which came in here. And by the way, please, if you have questions, put them in the chat box, and we will try to answer them throughout the session here. And if not, obviously afterwards. But one thing is which goes into that topic, Rolf. Somebody asking here, what did you learn about pricing and cost from the JV? Which I think goes exactly into this also topic 70-30, 50-50, right? Financing and yeah.
Right.
So when it comes to pricing and cost from the JV, what was your learning here?
I tell you, to buy a company which has a good basis in India is also an expensive exercise. You cannot say
yes.
you can get it cheap in India because they know that the Europeans want to come there. So the 70% was quite also an expensive exercise for us. It was much more than we ever have thought in the beginning, but it was a very good exercise. And the profitability, we made profit on day one. This factory, what you see here, was paid out of the cash flow from the operation during the 7 years. We did not have to go to the bank. We paid dividends, and we even made share buybacks. So it was a very profitable situation, but it had to be a clear view where we are moving into the future.
Okay, and here's another question coming in saying, obviously it sounds all like you were super duper fit, and that it was like a wedding made in heaven, a marriage wedding made in heaven, even though with a lot of work you needed to put in there to make it work, to align the expectations. Why then did you, because now you're 100%, why did you then become independent? Why did you decide this?
That's a very good point, actually. And there are different reasons for that. First of all, when we bought Apollo, the 70%, the family had been entrepreneurs. They could decide in the morning what they want to do in the afternoon and go ahead. With the 70-30 joint venture, this became different, and obviously Ammann had 70%. Then it comes to the identification of the company. The company name was Apollo before. On the joint venture, it was Ammann Apollo, not Apollo Ammann, Ammann Apollo. And after 5 years, it was Ammann India. Also, this has lost some of the identification. Then the culture of the company has changed because we had a new modern factory, and the old employees, what they had been retiring, and new highly educated people came in. So the culture of the company was completely different. Then the product portfolio. In the beginning, the Apollo products, that was the lead. And then all of a sudden, after 5 years, Ammann products were required. And then it comes also to the financials. As I said, we were profitable from day one. They have received quite a good money for the 70%. The 7% deal, what we worked together, were very profitable for both sides. And you can imagine this factory, what you see here now, the most modern state-of-the-art company with a new product portfolio, with access to India, to all regions, and to export. The company value has gone up. So the 30% has been also a good value for them. So as financer, this was a good move, and I understand why they have done that. For us, it would have been good to carry on, but that was their decision.
Okay. Then there's, and I think this we should do as a last question here, because we are already at India time 2:45, European time 10:15. What would you say is the most important thing, the most important function you put on with an expert? Is it production? Is it sales? Is it finance? Or don't you need an expert at all?
No, we had no expert whatsoever. I was the only one traveling forwards and backwards. My top priority was to get the right team together in the Apollo. My executive team, those were my people I wanted to work with, and I had to ensure that is a good team working together, and they have a good feeling that Ammann is a good host. That was most important.
Okay. So it was not really important to have your financial controller of Switzerland sitting in India and make sure the money is safe.
No.
This was all being managed by the local partner, but obviously you
No.
were interacting.
We have recruited the CFO, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. But an Indian guy. We have recruited the head of the machine division, and now we have recruited the head of plant division. We had recruited the managing director. No, that is something what we have done ourselves, but never with expat. All the time
Okay.
Indians. If you are
But
in
you
India,
were involved and you were in control, even though with local talents.
exactly, right.
Okay, perfect. I mean, there are loads of questions coming in here. I'm really sorry. Yeah, but those 45 minutes, we actually already over those 45 minutes. And what we will do is we will, I think, Atul, we can take off this picture here. What we will do, no, this you can also take off, Atul. What we will do yet is basically we will try to answer all questions